everybody, it's Becky. Welcome back to my channel. I have a homeschooling video for you guys, and I made this video in response to a question I got recently and kind of a question I've gotten pretty much consistently since I started my YouTube channel and talking about homeschooling. And a lot of you guys ask me about our homeschool co-op. We've done a homeschool co-op for a couple years. We had a couple years where we didn't do a homeschool co-op, and so I get a lot of questions about what are they, why should you do them, what are the benefits, how do they work. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today, is my personal experience with our homeschool co-op, some suggestions for you guys when it comes to choosing one that you may want to consider. So everybody's going to have a different experience with co-ops. Everybody's going to have a different thought on whether or not they're necessary. They definitely are not necessary. You can homeschool your kids from preschool all the way through graduating high school without ever having gone to a homeschool co-op. But I do feel like there is value in them if you can find one that works for you. So these are just some things to consider and think about and look for when you are trying to decide if you want a homeschool co-op and how do you choose one. So the first thing is, a lot of homeschool co-ops will be either religious or non-religious. You just have to decide if that really is something that matters to you. Do you want, if you're a Christian like we are, do you want a fellowship with a group of other Christians who are also homeschooling? If that doesn't matter to you, then obviously that may open up a lot more options for you than if you just want a Christian or a Catholic or whatever faith you are homeschool co-op. So for us, we do have a homeschool co-op that is a Christian-based co-op, partially because I want that value system that they teach and talk about and go by there to be similar to what we believe here at home, especially when it comes to certain subjects like maybe science, or do I want them to have a Bible class? Well, obviously, if it's not a religious co-op, they may or may not have a Bible religious class for the kids. So that's just something you have to consider and decide, does it matter to you? Does it not matter to you? Also, a big part of deciding on a homeschool co-op is finding out what parent involvement is involved and how you feel about that. All homeschool co-ops I've ever seen have a monthly fee involved, but they also usually have some type of volunteer commitment that you have to make as the parent in addition to your tuition. So perhaps if you're on leadership, maybe you won't have to pay your tuition. I guess that's dependent on the co-op. But from my experience, just being a parent who's not in leadership, you have to pay a monthly fee based on how many kids you have and the classes they take. And then also we have an obligation to have a parent job every school year. Some homeschool co-ops are going to require a lot more of you as the parent than others. They may have you do something every single time that you meet. They may have you do something for just a couple weeks or a semester. There's all different jobs that every parent is assigned usually. So it really just is something you have to decide, like, am I willing to volunteer? Do I have the time to be able to volunteer where they're asking me to volunteer, and things like that. So that may also help you choose a co-op. If you see two that you are really interested in and one has a lot of parent involvement that's required and the other one doesn't have as much, that may be a deciding factor for you because of time or abilities, that maybe you just don't want to be that involved. Maybe you would choose the other co-op that requires a little bit less work on your part. So that's really something to find out when you're looking at all these different co-ops. You know, ask the people on leadership, ask other people that go to that co-op, other parents, you know, what level of involvement is required, in addition to what you're going to be expected to pay for tuition every month. So like I just said, there is usually a cost also on top of your parent job that you're going to have to pay per month or per class. And then also oftentimes the class, each class will have its own separate fee for supplies. So that's something you're going to want to find out ahead of time before you agree to do this. What is your monthly tuition? What are your class fees? What are your supply fees? Are there any books required that you're going to have to go out and buy? All the things that involve money and how much it's going to cost, you're going to want to find out that ahead of time as best you can so that you can really sit down and make a decision between, you know, whatever your co-op options are. Well, this one's going to cost me $60 a month, where this one's going to cost me $80 a month, and you have to weigh that out based on your budget. Also, the selection of classes makes a big difference. You may find a lot of co-ops that are pretty basic and mostly for social activities. They may have just supplementary classes, things that maybe you wouldn't count as a full class or a full credit. But then there's other co-ops that are really rigorous, and they have like textbooks, and they have homework, and they have tests, and they're graded by the teacher, and they have reports and things they have to do. You can usually find several co-ops in your area that will have kind of a mix of those two different types, or somewhere in the middle, which is kind of where our homeschool co-op is. The classes that are there don't conflict with what we're doing at home, but there are some classes there that we're able to count towards a credit by doing the work at co-op, doing any assignments, and then doing extra work at home that is related to that subject, if that makes sense. So like when my oldest daughter did earth science at co-op, they actually used an Becky textbook. They didn't get the whole way through the textbook, so when they got done with co-op, she finished the textbook here at home, and it counted as a full credit for high school. So it really just depends on how much work you want your kids to have to do from these co-op classes that they're taking. Do you want to be able to count it as a full class or a full credit so that you don't have to teach that at home or supplement it at home? That again is something you're going to want to find out beforehand from the teachers and the people on leadership at those co-ops. You know, what type of curriculum is used? Are they real teachers? Are they just parents? Are there tests? Are they graded? Things like that. And then also something else to consider, which I feel like is the main benefit for us of a homeschool co-op, is the social activities. Especially if you have an only child or you have a child that really thrives on being around other kids and having experiences with other kids, good and bad, because it's kind of what's going to happen. Even at a Christian co-op, no matter where you go, you're going to have issues with kids or parents. It gives good learning experience for your kids, even if they're having a bad situation with a kid in class or a teacher. It's helping them to have these situations that they would have in public school and give them kind of that environment, but a lot smaller scale. So good things, bad things, making friends, having little plays that they do for the co-op or assemblies for different things, social activities, field trips. Our co-op has a yearbook, which is really nice, which is something that I missed when my oldest daughter was not in public school anymore. If you don't know, my oldest was public school until the middle of 4th grade, and then we took her out and started homeschooling her. Her younger sister, who is 9, she has never been in public school. But I was thinking of all these things that my older daughter got to do when she was in public school that my younger daughter was not really going to ever get to do being homeschooled. She wasn't going to have a yearbook. She wasn't going to have a school supply list. She wasn't going to go on field trips. And she wasn't going to learn how to like line up in line and be quiet in the hallways and, you know, deal with teachers that are other than me, you know, listening to an adult and having another adult teach her besides me. Like those were all things that I took for granted when my oldest daughter was in public school that I think are important and I think have value. Those were all things that I was like, oh, my youngest daughter's never going to get to have that. But a homeschool co-op gives us that. Silly little things like a school supply list, you know, taking your list to the store and getting your brand new supplies that your teacher needs you to have for class. Those are all kind of exciting milestones that I feel like most kids enjoy. I know I did as a kid. We loved going out and going school supply shopping and getting all the things we needed to get, and they were all new and smelled good, like the box of crayons and all that stuff. There's some things that we get from our homeschool co-op that may be little things, but I do think they're really important and they add to our homeschool experience. So that's something for you to consider. Does the co-op that you're looking at have social activities, play groups, plays, yearbooks, field trips, all those things that you may want your child to have the experience of? So do your research of the co-ops in your area. See if they have an open house perhaps, see who you can talk to ask your questions, somebody on leadership or a teacher, other parents, like how can you communicate and find out basically all of this stuff that we talked about, you know, the cost and the parent involvement and the classes and the required textbooks and all the activities and things that you're wanting. Make a list of the things that you would like to get from a co-op and then kind of start asking those questions of leadership and other parents and teachers in that co-op. You know, do we have this? Do we do that? How does this work? How much does this cost? To really be able to have all your information and then you can make a decision. And my last thing to really think about and take into consideration is co-ops are not one size fits all. There may be a co-op that looks great and you think you're going to love it, and you get into it and you hate it. It's too much work on your part. Your kids don't like the classes. You don't like the classes. You don't think it's worth what it costs. You don't really like having to be somewhere on a Thursday morning from 9 to 12 or whatever the situation is. There are other co-ops out there. I mean, you can definitely have maybe a first choice, maybe a second and third choice, you know, kind of go down your list, but it's just like jeans. You try on the same pair of jeans, same size, same cut, same brand, same style, and they all fit differently. It's the same thing with co-ops. You know, you may not find the one that you love right off, or you may realize after you did it for a semester or a year that you don't like doing a co-op at all. It's okay to not do a homeschool co-op. Your kids will be fine. You'll find other ways to give them these experiences and the socialization. You don't have to have a homeschool co-op to have a socialized homeschooler. I promise you don't. My kids get just as much socialization from their church group, from things they do during the summer, from lessons that they take during the school year. Like all of these different experiences, they're getting socialization. So you don't have to have a homeschool co-op to belong to give your child a good education and to give them a good homeschooling experience. They are nice and they can add to your homeschooling experience if you and your child enjoy it. So don't be afraid to switch co-ops after a year. Or don't be afraid to not do a co-op at all. Either one is fine. You really just have to find what works best for you and for your kids, and then be okay with that decision, whatever it is. So I hope this video was helpful. I appreciate you guys asking this question enough that it made me realize that I should probably make a video about it, because I guess I didn't realize that I hadn't made one. So I hope it was helpful for you all. If you're in a co-op and you don't like it, or if you are homeschooling and you want to start looking for a co-op but you don't really know where to begin, or I really, really hope this video was helpful. If it was, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you already homeschool and you're part of a co-op, let me know in the comments kind of some things. If I've missed something, like what are some things to consider, some questions that maybe a prospective parent can ask of a new homeschool co-op. Kind of get the conversation going about it so we can talk about it together in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. I love talking to you guys and learning from you guys. So definitely leave me any comments that you have. Also, check out my homeschooling playlist. It's linked for you in the description box. Every homeschool video I've ever made is in that playlist. So curriculum reviews and curriculum choices and homeschool room tours and all that stuff is in my homeschooling playlist. So definitely check it out in the description box, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.